All right, this video we're picking up from the previous one, Oracle concerning Damascus. Remember, chapter 17 and 18 are to be read in one unit, and hence this is a continuation of the previous video. If you have not watched it, please watch that one first. All right, putting up the outline. Once again, we had the introduction, 17:1 through 3. We have the judgment, recipient, and the restoration. And then we also had a section on Israel, right? In that day 3, in that day statements, destruction is going to be near complete, return of Israel to God, and another destruction section on the reason why they're getting destroyed. And the reason is because they have forgotten the God of their salvation. Now, we're diving into a new section from chapter 17, verse 12 and on till the end of chapter 18. We're going to be talking about the nations, okay? It's clear that it's nations. In the previous section, it was clear that it was about Israel because it said the glory of Jacob will be brought low. You have forgotten the God of salvation and so on. The children of Israel, we have many clues to think that it was about Israel. So we have in chapter 17 and 18 a combination of judgment on both Israel and the nations and both restoration of both nations. Let's dive in. 17:12 through 14 is one unit. The thunder of many peoples, they thunder like the thundering of the sea. The roar of the nations, they roar like the roaring of mighty waters. The nations roar like the roaring of many waters. But he will rebuke them, and they will flee far away, chased like chaff on the mountains before the wind, and whirling dust before the storm. At evening time, behold, terror. Before morning, there are no more. This is the portion of those who loot us, and the lot of those who plunder us. So what's happening here? First of all, it's clear that it's about the nations because verse 12 says, the thunder of many peoples, right? So these nations, these Gentile nations are coming. Okay, we're not given a detail of who this nation is, but you don't need to know. Okay, where the Bible is silent, I like to say, I don't know, I don't care. If I needed to know, the Bible would have told me. Okay, so don't try too hard to figure out what these nations are, although we do have some clues. But anyway, some nations are coming like roaring thunders, like thunder, many people, roaring of mighty water. So they're probably coming to attack. Okay. But verse 13b says, he will rebuke them. God is going to rebuke them. Okay. And they will flee far away. So nations are going to come to attack, but God is going to destroy them and they're going to run away. Verse 14 is kind of important though. At evening time, behold, terror. Before morning, they are no more. I hope this rings a bell. At evening time, behold, terror. Before morning, they are no more. And yes, the answer is 701 BC. Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, comes and besieges Jerusalem during the time of Hezekiah. He tells them to surrender. Hezekiah doesn't want to surrender. He asks God for help. He prays. God says, I'm going to send an angel and destroy them all. And overnight, 185,000 soldiers of Assyria get destroyed overnight by the angels of God. And they run away. Okay, they run away. This is in Isaiah 36 through 37. Also in 2 Kings. Can't remember if it's 18 or 20. 2 Kings. Somewhere in 2 Kings 18 or 20. This story is recounted. It's an overlap, parallel passage from Isaiah 36 and 37. So it sounds clearly like this is what this verse refers to. At evening time, behold, terror. Before morning, there are no more. But once again, Isaiah, for some reason, does not ever mention Assyria. Okay, Isaiah does not mention Assyria here. Maybe God didn't give him the details that this is going to be Assyria because, once again, this oracle was given in like 730s, right? And Sennacherib will come in 701, so about 30 years before. Maybe God didn't tell him the details, but I think, I don't know, but it fits well with the fact that in that day, in verse 17:7, the man will look to his maker, right? It doesn't say Israel's gonna look to his maker. Adam, okay, mankind, man will look to his maker. And here the destroyer, whoever that is not told, okay? And I think it is opening up the possibility of this to many events, or Isaiah is more interested in giving a basic principle than specific detail about it. All right, so it's interesting that Isaiah does not identify the attacker, but what is important for us is that there's gonna be attackers, but God is gonna destroy them. Okay? Let's move on to chapter 18, and I hope as we go on, these things will tie in together. 18:1. Land of warring wings that is beyond the rivers of Cush. Okay, notice this is the second statement. Contrary to 17:12, which also started with which sends ambassador by the sea in vessels of papyrus on the waters. We actually have records of people building little boats with papyrus. Go you swift messengers to a nation tall and smooth, to a people feared near and far, to a nation mighty and conquering, whose land the rivers divide. Let's pause here. This is a little tricky. Who are we talking about? The first question. Land warring wings that is beyond the rivers of Cush. Okay. This is probably the upper Nile, so south of Egypt. Okay, upper Nile is south of Egypt, probably around Ethiopia, which I don't want to get to too much detail, but if I give you a brief historical background, in 715 BC, these Ethiopian rulers, Ethiopian country, conquers Egypt and will become known as the 25th dynasty. Okay, 25th dynasty. So if you remember, it was the 12th dynasty that was during the time of Abraham, 14th dynasty was during the time of Joseph, and 18th was the one that Exodus happened. Okay, so this is the 25th dynasty. Okay, so they conquer Egypt, and this dynasty, the 25th dynasty, is kind of known for being very active diplomatically, sending a lot of messengers to many different countries. They want to take the central stage in the world power, and they encourage all these little countries like Judah and Philistia to revolt against Assyria, promising them to back up their rebellion against Assyria, because Egypt is a rival country of Assyria. So looking at this verse, which sends ambassadors by the sea, kind of makes sense, but to whom are they sending these ambassadors to? Go, you swift messengers, to a nation tall and smooth, to a people feared near and far, a nation mighty and conquering, whose land the rivers divide. They're sending. So this beyond the rivers of Cush could be that nation, the 25th dynasty, but many scholars have actually challenged that idea because it doesn't make sense in the context. Why is that? Because they're saying, go, you swift messengers, to a nation tall and smooth. To nation tall and smooth, who are they? Okay. Once again, Isaiah does not identify who this nation tall and smooth is. I think it's a nation in the Mesopotamian region, Assyria or Babylonia, where whatever that major power that's going to be there, because it matches the description, whose land the rivers divide. But I have to admit that the phrase to a nation tall and smooth is a typical description for Ethiopia. Okay, but it kind of doesn't make sense if the land beyond Cush is sending messengers to a neighboring country talking about this oracle that's going to happen worldwide. Doesn't make sense. But let me just kind of summarize and make it simple. All right, let's don't get too detailed in this discussion. What we have here is that there's a nation, whoever that may be, beyond the rivers of Cush. Whatever nation is sending their messengers to another whatever nation, tall and smooth. Okay, let's not get bogged down with identifying who this nation is. But a nation is sending their messengers to another nation. Okay, let's simplify to that, and let's try to focus on what the core of what Isaiah really wants to get across. Verse 3. All you inhabitants of the world. See, again, the addressee is inhabitants of the world. Very general, very obscure, very broad, which follows suit from look to his maker. A man will look to his maker. and Sennacherib not having been mentioned earlier. Okay, so all you inhabitants of the world, verse 3, you who dwell on the earth, when a signal is raised on the mountain, look, when a trumpet is blown, hear. For thus the Lord said to me, I will quietly look from my dwelling like a clear heat in sunshine, like a cloud of dew in the heat of harvest. So what's happening here? It's saying some nation is sending their messengers to some nation, and what are they saying? Hey, listen up. God told me there's going to be signal. There's going to be some sort of sign, and you better pay attention to it when that trumpet is blown. Why? What's God gonna do? Verse 4, I will look quietly from my dwelling. So it's kind of anticlimactic. You better pay attention when the trumpet is blown, because God is going to be quiet all throughout. Okay? God is gonna be like clear heat in sunshine. Nothing's gonna happen much, but when the time comes, God's gonna act. Verse 5. For before the harvest, when the blossom is over and the flower becomes ripening grape, he cuts off the shoots with pruning hooks, and the spreading branches he lops off and clears away. Okay, he's gonna wait until the harvest time. Right before harvest begins, he's gonna act and destroy. Okay, that is what God's gonna do. But until then, he's gonna be kind of quiet. He's gonna be a little reserved and aloof. But when the time comes, he's gonna bring sudden destruction. Okay, verse 6, they shall all of them be left to the birds of prey of the mountains and to the beasts of the earth, and the birds of prey will summer on them, and all the beasts of the earth will winter on them. This is the result of that God's sudden destruction. And by the way, note the imagery that's given here in verse 5 is that before the harvest, he's gonna cut off the shoot. This is kind of like what happened to Israel. Remember in chapter 7 in the previous video, you have forgotten your God of your salvation, therefore though you plant, you're not gonna reap. Right? So some same kind of motif is repeated here to describe the judgment of the nations, as Isaiah had already done to describe the judgment on Israel. Once again, supporting the idea that chapter 17 and 18 are to be as one oracle, as a continuation, one illustrating the other. Okay, so judgment is characterized by Lord's patience and sudden destruction. Verse 7, the last verse. At that time, tribute will be brought to the Lord of hosts, from a people tall and smooth, from a people feared near and far, a nation mighty and conquering, whose land the rivers divide, to Mount Zion, the place of the name of the Lord of hosts. Quite surprising. After this destruction on the nations, there's going to be that people tall and smooth, whoever that may be, okay? Maybe it's in Mesopotamia, maybe it's in Egypt somewhere, Africa somewhere, but the people tall and smooth, they're going to come, and what are they going to do? They're going to worship God. They're going to bring tribute to the Lord. Okay? Which, once again, matches the return of Israel, as described by a man will look to his maker. So, whenever that day may be, that nation who's going to be judged will be restored and worship God at Mount Zion. Okay, quite a relevant message for me and many of you, because I'm a Gentile, I'm not a Jew, but salvation has always been opened for all people. God's redemptive mega plan has never been restricted to the Israelites. Although I do love Israel and support them, ever since Abraham, all nations will be blessed through you, and so on. And we see in Revelation 7, there's the 12 tribes of Israel, 144,000, but surrounding them are all the people from nations and tongues worshiping together. Okay, so this is beautiful picture of God restoring nations alongside Israel. And this is described by using Damascus and Ephraim as an example. Okay, so that is what chapters 17 and 18 are about. It's a beautiful picture that describes in a very poetic and beautiful way of destruction of Israel, restoration of Israel, but destruction of the nations and restoration of nations where they will worship the one true God at Zion. I hope this means something to you, because we will also worship the Lord together, Jew or Gentile, all in one spirit, the Lamb of God who's going to be sitting on the throne.